Okay, we've done a bunch of number one. Where's that not up? What's the problem? So we've done number one, basically. Let me go back. Okay, so there's question number one. Real quick. So we got half an hour here. So, all right. So watch these words. This tricks everybody. Let's see. Data collection. What is this data collection? What are they doing? They're just, I don't know. They're just grabbing marbles. What is that? Sometimes you just go down by process of elimination. Is it a survey? Clinical? So clinical's like where you've got medicines and drugs and curing things. This isn't a clinical. It's not controlled. Census. It's basically a survey, meaning they grab some marbles, right? That's like a survey. It's like a poll, like survey. You just ask 10 people who they're going to vote for or whatever. Just grabbed 10 marbles out of the bag, right? Makes sense there? Target population. What's the target? Target's what you're aiming at. What do you really want to know? This confuses people a lot. I don't know what I can say to help with that. Target is, just think real life. Why are they grabbing marbles out of this bag? What are they trying to do? It says to figure out how many marbles in the container are red. Like they want to know about all the marbles in there. So it's the 800. The goal is to know about the 800 marbles in the container, right? Just like when they take a poll before the election, they want to know what the whole country is going to do. That's the goal. The sample is the marbles that were grabbed, the 40 marbles that were grabbed. Number 4, sampling rate. Remember how to figure out sampling rate? Rate, any kind of rate means number over total. Rate, right? Rate is the part. So when it says sampling rate, yeah, how many were sampled? 40 out of 800 total marbles. Does that make sense? That's the sampling rate. It's the portion that were sampled. So they grabbed 40 marbles out of 800. You reduce that, change it to a percentage, you get 5% on that. Good so far? I move on to 5 and 6. Number 5 says, suppose that the student is told, hey, that's what we did for the quiz today. We got that one. Let's go on to number 6. The value, what is 16/40ths? What is that? Well, let's go back to the words and see where the 16 and the 40 are. Here's the 16 and here's the 40. That's when they grabbed the sample, huh? And they got 16 red out of the 40 they grabbed hold of. So it's 16 red out of 40 total in the sample. So in the little sample that they grabbed, 16 were red out of 40 total. What is that? Is that the sampling rate? Careful, it can fool you, huh? Because it does have to do with the sample, but it's not the sampling rate. You got your 3x5 card. I would write on my card, this is not sampling rate, but just to be clear, I would write sampling rate equals number sampled over total number in the bag or in whatever it is you're talking about. I think that might be helpful for you. Write that on your 3x5 card. Sampling rate is the number sampled divided by the total number in the bag. So this is not sampling rate. That was the previous question, number 4. Yeah, so sampling rate, just one more time, extra clear. Sampling rate is number sampled over total number in the bag. So that was 40 out of 800. That came out 0.05 or 5%. But that's no to be. That means question number 6 is not the sampling rate. That's not right? Because that's not 16 out of 40. Is it the response rate? There's not people responding here. That's not what we're talking about. Is it a parameter or a statistic? What are parameters and statistics? Do you know the difference? That's really the key. Do you know the difference? It'd be good to put those on your thing. A parameter is a number from the population. Do you know what I mean when I say population? Meaning the whole country, for example, if we're doing a poll. Right? So the parameter would be the actual number that voted for Trump, for example. What did he get? 48% actual vote. Not just polling ahead of time, but what he actually got, right? So parameters are always from the whole deal, the real population, whereas statistics are a number from a sample. So that would be like when they polled and they said Trump would only get 47%. I don't know what they said, but for example, right? So polling would be like a statistic. It's just from a little group. It's just a sample. So remember I tried to do PPSS, PP, population parameter. They go together, right? Parameters and populations. They go to parameters come from the population. And statistics come from the sample, SS. So this 16 out of 40 is from the sample. So it's a statistic. The answer is D, huh? It's a statistic. We good? These little words really fool people, all these little bitty things. It's a statistic because it's from the sample. Okay, keep moving. That good? Let's go to number 7. Number 7 says, the sampling error is most likely the result of... Now, what do they mean by sampling error? Well, they meant they grabbed some marbles out of the bag, and they tried to make that little sample be the same percentage red as the whole population, just like what they do when they poll before an election, right? Excuse me. And they try to ask people, who are you going to vote for? 47% said Trump, so we think 47% of the whole country. Really, it was maybe 48, I don't know. So that difference is called the error. Everybody getting what I mean on that? What is sampling error? Error, well, I should say sample. Sample error is reality minus what the sample said. Right? The difference between what really happened and what you thought would happen based on the sample. So we're saying when we grab marbles out of that bag, whatever percentage red we got, we thought that would be the same as percentage red in the whole bag. But it didn't come out exactly right. It was in error. I'm sure they never are perfect, right? So what caused that error? Would it be a confounding variable? That's the stuff like with milk and cancer and Boy Scouts and prison. And remember those stories I told you? Those were confounding. When I said different states that have more Boy Scouts 20 years later have more criminals. Well, Boy Scouts aren't making criminals. The hiding, confounding variable is population. States that have more Boy Scouts have more everything. They have more population. So that's not what we're talking about here. There wasn't some confounding variable in the marble grab, right? Was there a sample bias? Was there a bias? No, we're not biased what kind of marbles we're getting. Non-response, no. Sampling, variability. There's just different samples have variation, right? Just luck. There's just a little bit of variations. D. That okay? Please speak up. I want to help you in these 20 minutes. Every time I give out this exam, I think, okay, they've got it. It's all crystal clear. And then I run those scantrons through, and it sounds like the 4th of July has already arrived. I'm like, what? And I'll look at them, and I'll go, they're missing number 7. I'll look at number 7, but I talked about that. I talked exactly about that. So let me know what I can help with. Is that making sense on that? So a lot of it is understanding these terms so you can kind of eliminate. I think a lot of this is, it's not bias, right? You know what bias is, right? And it's not a confounding, that's the milk cancer thing. It's not non-response. It's variability. Samples just vary. Number 8, sampling frame for this survey. What's the frame? The frame's what the picture sits in. It's what you're taking the data from. What was the frame? Oh, they're saying some weird things. So the frame is what we took. Like, remember when I first said if I want to figure out the average age on campus, how about I just ask the front row, what's your age and average? Just you 6 people in the front row or whatever. that to get the average for the whole campus. My target would be the whole campus. My frame would be my class. That's from what I took the names, right? So the frame's what you take the sample from. What are they? Now the frame, is it larger than the target? No, you can't. No, no. No. Is it smaller than the target? Yes, it is smaller. Does it contain members that are not in the target? No. The frame is the we grab marbles out of the bag. The frame is the bag. It's the same as the target. Yeah, it's the same. The frame was the bag, right? But where did we get our sample from? So if my frame was math class, that would be smaller than my target, Fresno City College. But if I just went out and randomly walked around Fresno City College, then my frame is equal to my target. I'm taking them from all of Fresno City, right? You really want your frame to equal your target, or you're going to get bias. Does everybody see the point of that? If I just took average age in here, we might get, I don't know, younger or older because people taking Math 45, maybe they're closer to graduation, maybe they're, I don't know, so they might tend to be older, tend to be, I don't know. But it's going to bias because it's not just generally Fresno City College. You see the deal? You want your target, what you're aiming at, and your frame from which you take it to match. And this one matches. 8 is D. We just took marbles out of the bag. The target is the bag. The frame is the bag. It's all the bag. They're the bag. Right? Is that okay? Number 9, sampling method. What do? We just grab marbles. It's simple, random sampling. We just grab marbles out of the bag. All right, let's go on, huh? Number 10. So spend some time thinking on those. Hopefully that's making some sense for you. Okay, tamoxifen study claims that a combination of chemo and the hormone tamoxifen is more effective than tamoxifen alone in preventing breast cancer. So notice it's all these words, tons and tons of words, and you're under pressure for time. And I'm sure that's a big part of the challenge on these. Taking little notes might help. Like you got all these words. What are they saying? So they're saying chemo plus the T stuff. Chemo, and the hormone therapy, tamoxifen, is better than, see what they're claiming? Is better than T alone. Wow. Tamoxifen alone in preventing breast cancer. Right? First off, that's just basically what that first sentence says, right? It might help you to break down some words like that. Okay, I'm in the second sentence now. In the study, a group of researchers from the U.S. and Canada studied 1477 postmenopausal women with early-stage breast cancer. The women were randomly assigned to one of 3 study groups. Group A is tamoxifen alone. Group B, so that's good to write this. So this is A is tamoxifen alone. Group B received chemo and tamoxifen, then completed 5 years. So they did some. C received chemo alone. So B was both. C was chemo alone. C was chemo alone. Right? Yeah. All 1470 patients knew which treatment they were receiving. Okay. This study can best be described as, all right, is it randomized, controlled, survey, blah, 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 blah. All right. Well, that's confusing. Is it a controlled experiment? Is it a controlled experiment? I guess that's it. All right. Is it a controlled experiment? Controlled, remember, that's when you have a group that doesn't get the whatever you're trying to test, right? So, like, you test the some new drug, you give it, it's what they did with the polio thing, right? They gave it to some kids, not to others, the Salk vaccine. They gave it to some kids, not to others, to see if it was just mental, right? To see if the drug's really doing something. So, is there a group that's not getting the whatever? I know they're all getting something. Don't be fooled by that. But they're not all getting what we're trying to test. What are we really trying to test? Chemo and tamoxifen. We're really trying to see if the tamoxifen helps. That's really what we're testing. So is there a group not getting the tamoxifen? Yeah, group C. So this is a controlled experiment, right? We will be able to see if the tamoxifan's making a difference because two groups are getting it and one group is not getting the tamoxifen, right? So that's a controlled experiment, right? When controlled means one's getting it, one's not. You have a way to compare. You're controlling the results. So yeah, this is a controlled, randomized, controlled experiment. But wasn't it randomized? Did it say, yeah, randomly assigned. Yeah, right here. Randomly assigned. So that's a randomized, controlled experiment. Yeah, it's not stratified sampling. Stratified's where you break them into different groups and stuff. It's not anything like that. All right, we'll move on. Number 11. In the study, which is the control group? Oh, I'm a little confused. Group A is the control group? I'm confused too. Let's see. The women were randomly assigned to one group A received tamoxifen alone. The study claims that a combination of chemo and tamoxifen is more effective, than T alone. Oh, I better read that more careful. Okay, so it's a lot of careful reading. Even for me, it's tricky. Okay, yeah, that first sentence is really important. That first sentence is what they're trying to claim, right? Just like when you write a research paper, your thesis statement is the big deal. That's kind of like what this is. Look at that first sentence. Tamoxifen claims that a combo of chemo and hormone is better than tamoxifen alone. So you see what they're claiming? Chemo and the tamoxifen is better than tamoxifen alone. So they're saying the chemo is helping out. So I kind of had it backwards there first. They're saying chemo and tamoxifen is better than tamoxifen alone. So if that's the case, who's not getting then the chemo? If the chemo's the difference, right? Chemo and tamoxifen better than tamoxifen alone. If the chemo's the difference, if that's what's being tested, the chemo making a difference, who's the control group? Who's not getting the chemo? A, no chemo, right? Do you guys all see that? See how I determined that from those words? See that first sentence? Right? We're trying to see if chemo and tamoxifen is better than T alone. I should have read what I wrote. Chemo and tamoxifen is better than T alone. So the chemo is making the difference. So the control group is the one not getting the chemo. That's group A. Yeah, that's tricky. This study is it blind, not double blind, not blind, blah, 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 blah. Any kind of blindness in this experiment? No, doesn't it say they all know what they're getting? Yeah, all 147 know what they're getting. There's no blindness here. Not blind. They're not keeping it secret at all. Blindness is when you don't tell them whether they're getting the real drug or not, because you're trying to get the placebo effect. Get the mental stuff out of there, right? Is that good? So I see why these are confusing. All these words can be confusing, can't they? Does that make sense? So really pay attention on these study ones that you get these whatever they're called, these there's a word I can't think of. Anyway, these study ones, these medical kind. When you get these, always pay attention to what their goal is. That's the most important part of the statement. What are they doing this for? What are they trying to do? This one is chemo and tamoxifen better than just tamoxifen. Then you know, it's about the chemo. So the control group's the one not getting the chemo. So pay real close attention to that. In order to determine the effects of a new high-carbohydrate diet intended to treat depression. So what's the goal? That was the most important statement almost right there in the thing. What are they doing with this high-carbohydrate diet? Treat depression. So remember what they're trying to do. That drives everything else. A researcher conducts a study. 500 inmates in the Middletown prison are selected to participate in the study. Researcher puts the 400 inmates not in solitary confinement on a new diet. 400 not... A little better. 400 not in solitary get the new diet. Right? The 100 in solitary are given their regular meals. The 100 in solitary confinement get regular. Right? And The 400 inmates on the new diet are not aware they're being studied or that their diet has been modified, but have many fewer reported cases of depression after 30 days. So they have fewer reported cases of depression than the ones in solitary confinement. All right, number 13. Which of the following is not true? So what do you think of that study, first off, as you read it? So they're trying to prove that the new high carbohydrate diet helps treat depression. So they gave it to the 400 people not in solitary confinement, and just kept regular the people in solitary confinement. And at the end of the time, a month, 30 days, they noticed that the 400 that had the new carbohydrate diet had less cases of depression than the other 100 that had the regular diet. So do you think, is that good evidence that the new carbohydrate diet is working? Or is there maybe something else that could be causing the 100 people to have more cases of depression? They're locked in solitary confinement. This is a ridiculous thing, right? I mean, you just have to laugh at this one. Are you kidding me? So they're not even trying to get to the truth on this thing, right? I mean, the 100 people locked in solitary confinement, yeah, I'm sure that tends to make you a little depressed, right? I mean, you think it's the carbohydrate diet? Maybe it has something to do with being locked in a dark room all day long, you know? I mean, it's just ridiculous study, right? Do you get that idea? Do you see that? Right? You're supposed to, that's exactly what you're not supposed to do in a study, right? You're supposed to make everything else equal, except for the thing you're changing, the diet. They did not make everything else equal. Those guys, those groups are living in vastly different circumstances. Solitary confinement or not solitary confinement, right? Okay, so with that in mind, which of the following is not true? It's always tricky when they do the not, huh? Watch out, these publisher questions, not true. So careful, which is not true. This is a controlled experiment. Is this a controlled experiment? What does that mean, controlled? You clear on that word again?
One group staying the same.
Yeah, one group staying the same. One group, well put. One group doesn't get the whatever. Doesn't get the drug. Doesn't get the whatever. That's what for control. Is that true? Is there a group not getting the whatever? What's the whatever? What are we doing? The diet. Is there a group not getting the new diet? Well, yeah. Yeah, the inmates, the solitary confinement people. Yeah, so yeah, technically this is a controlled. It's a lousy controlled experiment, but it is controlled. There's a group not getting the new diet. So which is not true? It's a controlled. No, it is. So we got to move on. B. Is it a randomized controlled? Yeah, it is a randomized controlled. C. Is it randomized? Well, let me go on and see. C. The control group consists of the 100. Yeah, it does. That's the truth. This is clinical. Yeah, it's clinical, technically. All the above are true. My only question is B. B. What do you think about B? Is it a randomized? Did they random it at all? Is there anything random about it? Did it ever say they grabbed anybody randomly? No. So B is not true. It's not a random. So that's kind of tricky, huh? It's not random. They never said it was random. Let's go on to number 14. Which of the following is true? Is it a double blind, but not blind? Is it double blind? Is it not blind? Is it, what's the story on the blindness? Did the people know they were getting the change? No. Yeah, not aware. So they're not aware, so it's blind at the least. Is it double blind? What's double blind? Both the doctors giving the stuff and the patients don't know. Just the administrators over the whole thing know that, because sometimes the doctors have to identify changes and they're kind of subjective and they could be swayed. So, but it's not, they don't ever say the doctors don't know. So this is just blind, but not double blind. Yeah, D, right? 14D, yeah. Right. 15. In this experiment, which is the control group? The 100, right? Everybody good with that? The 100 didn't get the new diet. They're the control group. They didn't get the drug, so to speak. 16, the results of this experiment are likely to be invalid, mostly because the treatment group were not same, subjects did not know the presence of solitary confinement. Absolutely. Could be a confounding variable. Yeah, that's craziness, right? All right, let's move on. Oh my goodness, look at the time. I'm on number 17. Okay. I don't like the way they write the N1, N2 thing. Let me just give you the formula, if that helps. I think it will help. The size of the tag captured. N2 notes the size of the recaptured sample. So N1 and N2 are there and there, I guess. The number of tagged images in the second sample. K is here, I guess. So that's what they're saying. They're saying that. So if you want to write that down on your 3x5 card in case they... I'll probably try to give you a question on the actual test that doesn't say it. I think it's weird, N1, N2, K. We never really did that. So I'll probably just try to make it more normal on the exam. I'll just say some group was a fish or whatever, deer, was captured, tagged, then recaptured, you know. So there's what they want you to do. They want you to find the estimate for the size of the population. If anyone, for the size of the population is, so number over N1, 500, size of the tagged. What's it saying? N1 denotes the size of the tagged sample. Wait, do I have that right? The size of the second sample. The size of the tagged. I'm sorry, I don't like their N1, N2 thing. So I got it upside down, don't I? I think N1's supposed to be here. Yeah, sorry guys. I don't like this N1. I should get rid of this. I don't like the way they're doing this question. So N1 is 500. The number's what we're looking for. K, they tell me, is 25. N2 is 300. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so write it this way on your 3x5 card. I'm 99% sure I'm not going to give you. If I do, yeah, I'll probably just write the formula on the board. I don't like the N1, N2K. I'll probably just give you like real life, captured, recaptured. Here it is. So anyway, there's the formula though. So what do? You cross multiply, right? 500 times 300 equals number, or call it X or whatever you want. You call it X, that helps. X times 25, so that's 15 with 4 zeros. 25x divide by 25. X equals 6,000. Yep, that's the answer, isn't it? A, 6,000. Is that okay? On that, and 18's the same way. 19's the same way. Yeah, they just gave 17, 18, 19 are all the same formula, right? So I'll move on from those. So I'm running out of time. Let me scan real quick. We get those down?